Hello, my name's David Black from Black and Banton Occupational Physical Health, and I'm delighted to have the company of a former #1 tennis player, Tim Henman, for a Newcastle University question and answer session. The questions will be around how to stay physically and mentally healthy during the pandemic. So welcome everyone, and let's get straight on to the questions.
Hi Tim, I'm Sally Ingram, so I'm the Director of the Student Health and Wellbeing Services here at Newcastle. We're kind of keen to know how we can take learning from you as a professional athlete and apply it to current times. So right now, lots of staff and students are very rightly fearful about what's happening in the world, how we can come out of lockdown. We're kind of interested to know how you coped with fears and pressures when you were a professional athlete and what we can take from that in terms of our own learning.
I always felt it was very important to control the things that I could control, and that was related to my preparation, it was related to my performance, it was to focus on the process, and the outcome will take care of itself. And you know, that goes back to very simple things like, you know, trying your best, giving 100% at whatever you can do. So certainly relating it from sport into, you know, what we're dealing with now. I think if you can do a good job controlling the things that you can control and not worrying too much about, you know, other elements that you can't influence, then I think you have a good, you'll be in a good place mentally and hopefully a good place physically.
Hi Tim, obviously.
Hello Janet.
I am Occupational Health Manager and Director at Black and Banton. Many of us are currently working from home and there's a number of domestic distractions, good and bad. How did you remain focused on court with crowd interruptions? And are there any tips people can use to stay focused and motivated on work or study commitments or well-being choices?
Being able to control the things that you can control, I think, is very much related to whether it's home learning or whether it's your training. So to have those goals to work towards, if you want to achieve certain things in a day, it might be in a week, it might be in a month, or it might be in a year, but then having something to work towards, that focus on the process to then hopefully achieve the desired outcome. So yeah, I think it's very relevant with the environment that we find ourselves in. A lot of people, when you talk about working from home and distractions that go with it. So for me, I always felt goal setting was important, and that doesn't necessarily have to be particularly complicated.
Hi Tim, I'm Sam Dainty, Occupational Health and Safety Service Manager here at Newcastle University. I was just wondering if you made any healthy habits during lockdown, so anything that's helped you during this pandemic? I
always have felt that if I can do a little and often, I feel better physically, I feel better mentally. So we've got a black Labrador, so my wife and I run most mornings. I've got a small gym at home, so you know, just getting into a good routine, and it doesn't have to be for hours and hours. So you know, 45 minutes to an hour, doing some exercises in the gym, I feel has been very beneficial, and it makes me justify my rosé consumption in the evening. You know, to be outside the fresh air and the exercise, you know, I've always felt is very important.
So my name's Alex. I'm the current president and next year's first team captain of the tennis team. You had spoke a little earlier about your journey to becoming a tennis player, but I was wondering, when you were playing tennis professionally, how did you keep that sort of high level of fitness and motivation? And have you got any tips for us?
Success is about maximizing your potential. And when you break it down, you've got to make sure that you maximize your potential in every area. So that will be on the tennis court, in the gym, mentally, your diet, your injury prevention, your recovery, all those areas. If you give 100% to everything you do, you know, as I say to my kids, whether it's their exams, their schoolwork, whether it's sport, just go out there and give 100%. You can't ask for anything more than that.
Hi Tim, my name is Benta. I'm the Athletic Union Officer at Newcastle University Students' Union, which basically means I represent all students involved in sport. So as you can imagine, it's been very hard in lockdown and for the coming months for our students to have training. And my question kind of touched on what you've just said, but was there a time where you weren't able to train as normal? And if so, how did you get back to full fitness in a timely manner?
One of the things that I certainly learned in the early parts of my career, and I was lucky that coach told me this early on, everybody's heard of the theory that practice makes perfect, and that's not true. Practice makes permanent, but that obviously goes both ways. So if you practice something, that habit will become ingrained. So it's very important that you practice the right things, because you ingrain those good habits, it will make life a lot easier. So if you have a bad habit and you keep practicing it, you're ingraining a bad habit. So to understand practice makes permanent, therefore to utilize your time to the best of your ability and ingrain those good habits, I think is a lesson that certainly in life or in sport, the earlier you can understand that, the better.
I'm just interested in what advice would you give organisations, businesses, if you like, to help reduce the barriers faced in accessing sports in order to make sure facilities are inclusive for everybody?
When you talk about youngsters being active and having healthy lifestyles, for me, I would put more sport into the curriculum in schools to get people out there playing whatever the sport is, and certainly within tennis to give that opportunity to your best athletes to play the game.
Have you got any advice for student athletes, as what I said, they won't be able to have their normal years they would have expected to have here at university? Have you got any advice on how to deal with that?
As frustrating and as disappointing as it may be, you can really use the time wisely to better yourself as an individual or as part of a team.
And I'd like to thank you for sharing your thoughts and your experiences with us. We wish you and your family the very best, and we look forward to seeing you very much back on the BBC commentary box soon.
Well, thanks so much, David, and I've really enjoyed it. You know, we'll get through this tricky stage, and all the best to you all.
Thank you.
Good day.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.